Welcome everyone to day 3 of the 5-day challenge of Shift Happens. Today we've got an amazing guest from Australia. You're in Brisbane, is that right?
Indeed, yeah, in Brisbane.
Brisbane, Australia. Jack Glennon from Glennon Peak Coaching. Is that
Bingo.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to go kick into this. We're going to go through a bit of a recap of what we've covered in the last couple of days, and then we'll kick into Jack presenting and talking through some of the slides that he's prepared around how to communicate with confidence through career and life transitions. Jack, did you want to give any introduction before you kick in?
A very short one, yeah. I mean, thank you firstly for having me on the platform. It's brilliant, and thank you to everyone who's going to dial in and watch this later. To explore the topic that's really close to my heart. Communicating with confidence will hopefully give you everybody some really good insights. But yeah, as you mentioned, I'm based in Brisbane, founder of Glennon Peak Coaching, and yeah, looking forward to a really good session.
Show video panel. Here we go. Right, now I can see you. Okay, so it's embracing change with confidence is important. It's important to have the confidence when you're going through any type of change, and whether it's in life or whether it's in your workplace, having that confidence on and how you're going to be able to show up each day during the in the midst of restructures or life transitions, and then how you're going to communicate with people. As Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher, said, I can never pronounce that name properly. Change is the only constant in life, and apart from death, taxes, and the weather, change is the only constant in life. So embrace it and grow stronger. When we embrace things that are uncomfortable for us, it's a process of growth, and it helps us transition through that process and become stronger, right? And part of this process involves adapting to new circumstances, having a mindset that's going to set us up for success, allowing us to the ability to pivot and when things are happening, and rather than getting stuck and putting our heads in the sand, as I keep referring to this week, is that often when these things happen, we don't want to we don't want that uneasiness and that feeling. The ability to pivot and move forward with confidence. The other thing is making sure that we've got a strategic plan on how we're going to make this happen, because we can't just hope that things are going to just work out. It's important to have faith in something higher, but you still got to take action, right? And then building that emotional resilience, the strength inside you to be able to move forward again with confidence, but knowing that, hey, I've been through this before, I can do this. Now, to give you an example, I've been through 24 restructures. I've just gone through fourth redundancy at about a month ago. And, I remember each time it's been different emotions, different feelings. First time I cried my eyes out. Second time I was angry. Third time I was like, whoa, what are the opportunities? And the fourth time was like a slap in the face going, hey, come on, it's time to actually start building your own business rather than working for someone else. And you might choose to stay in the 9 to 5, or you might choose to go, hey, I want to step out with and take that step of faith and have the courage to be able to back myself and do something that I want to do, right? So that's important as well. So we talked about yesterday around the difference between the fixed and the growth mindset. People that avoid failure want to look smart, they want to avoid challenges, stick to what they know, be in the comfort zone. They don't like criticism or feedback. And I used to be one of those people. I used to be all of those things on the left-hand side in the red, and didn't want to change. But then I came to the realization that things were just happening over and over again, a pattern, and things kept repeating. It's like Groundhog Day. Every single day for 40 something years, I was waking up and reliving that pattern over and over and over again. And so it's important to cultivate a growth mindset And for me, it's a champion mindset where, no matter what, I'm just going to keep pushing through. And we may not have a lot of people turning up on these sessions, but you know what? Glenn and I here are showing up because we want to deliver a message. We want to be able to help you. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, then we want to help you. Reach out to us. So resilience, it's like a tree that withstands the storm, no matter what comes at it. It may bend, it may shake, but it just keeps its grounding and helps with. So what is resilience? What are the outcomes? It's improved coping skills, enhanced emotional regulation, increased optimism, and then fostering that growth. So uh, these slides will be, you can have a look on this on the video later on. I'm not going to go through all of this, but it's just a recap. So now we're going to hand over to Jack. Would you like to take us through, give us an introduction of who you are and then what you do, and then let's kick into the next slide.
Very easy. Well, I touched on it at the start, so thank you again, Anthony, for the opportunity. But yeah, I'm the founder of Glennon Peak Coaching, which is leadership and career coaching online, based here in Brisbane. So I focus on authentic, emotional intelligence-led coaching for individuals that either are going through career transitions, go through their first taste in leadership, or even experienced leaders who are looking to upskill or looking to assess their challenges in their position or in life in general, which, as Anthony's exploring doing his coaching, is really fulfilling and challenging at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nothing easy, nothing great comes from easy, right? So
No, never.
challenges shape you. I eat challenges for breakfast. So yeah, bring it on.
Awesome. Right.
And that
Let's
just
do it.
reminds me of that. That just reminds me of that dialogue from, I think it was Commando, where he goes, I eat green berets for breakfast.
Yeah, it's not far off, is it?
Yeah. All right. All yours.
Great, thank you so much. And quite often I'll sort of prompt Anthony to change the slides for me, as he's got the tech whiz on his end. But if you're watching this, we're going to be talking about communicating with confidence. Now, it might be because you're navigating a career change, going through a life transition, or simply looking to reclaim your path and find clarity. Whatever brought you here today, or if you're watching this later, firstly, I hope this session empowers you to communicate confidently in any situation. So the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to go over strategies that will help make your voice strong, grounded, and authentic. It's really important to be all three. Now, we'll do this with a blend of interactive questions that you'll have to think about, because I'm not getting anything back, I don't think, today, and tools that you can start using literally immediately. So with that in mind, let's go to the next slide and talk about transitions themselves. Now, transitions can feel quite a lot like a stepping stone into the unknown, and that's scary. It's a mix of excitement and uncertainty, but they also hold an incredible potential for growth if they're approached with the right mindset. And they're generally broken down into three things. Firstly, adapt and thrive, because as you mentioned yourself, Anthony, change is inevitable, but growth is intentional. Embrace the chance to learn, adjust, and uncover new strengths. We've all got them. We've all got strengths that we are completely unaware of. Next is to cultivate that confidence, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, because confidence isn't about knowing it all. It's actually about trusting your ability to figure it out, celebrating the small wins, and lean on your resilience. It's that balance. And finally, embracing the actual journey yourself. And Anthony, you actually mentioned this 5 minutes ago, the journey, right? Growth isn't linear. Every twist and turn shapes you into a stronger version of yourself, no matter how much it might suck in the moment. So remember, as we go through the details today, adaptability is your superpower. Confidence is your fuel, and the journey is the reward. Embrace it all with poise and just keep moving forward. Let's go. So let's talk about defining confidence in a bit more detail, specifically in the context of communication, as that's what we're here to talk about. Often we see confidence as this larger than life presence, charisma, or unshakable tone. You can all imagine someone walking in the room, big confidence. But true confidence is actually something much, much, much deeper. It's about trusting your own voice, your own message, and your own worth. So I want you to just take a moment and think about someone whose confidence you admire. What is it about their communication style that resonates with you? Have a think and see if you can really pinpoint those areas in your mind. Because confidence isn't just about volume or intensity. I can imagine you're thinking about someone and they don't necessarily need to be the loudest person in the room. It's about clarity, authenticity, and alignment between what we feel and what we say. Whether you're in a job interview, a tough conversation, or even a family discussion, aligning your communication with your true thoughts and intentions is really where confidence begins. Next one. Okay. One of the most crucial elements of communicating confidently is self-awareness. Self-awareness even, if I can say it correctly, gives us the clarity on who we are, what we value, and where we're going, particularly in moments of transition. When we communicate from a place of self-awareness, we're speaking from our core values and beliefs, speaking from really deep within. That makes our messages far more powerful and memorable. Think about it this way. If you're unclear on what you want and what you feel, it's actually quite hard to convey a really clear message to other people. So the first practical tool that I'd like to introduce is a values and strengths inventory. This is an exercise to help you identify the values and strengths that you want to lead in every conversation. So let me give you an example. If growth and integrity are values that really resonate with you, think about how these show up in your conversations. Perhaps growth means you're open to feedback, and integrity means you always aim to be honest, even when it's really, really difficult. This doesn't mean you talk about growth and integrity lots. It's more what's your intent inside. So I encourage everyone that's watching this today or later on to take 5 minutes to jot down 3 or 5 values, probably no more than that, that really matter to you. These will serve as your communication compass as you navigate change. Think about it as your communication foundation. Okay. Now let's move on to the physical side of communication, body language and tone. I'm sure most people are familiar with this, but studies show that more than 90% of our communication is nonverbal. So that's why it's crucial to use your body and your tone in ways that reflect your confidence. So think of someone who holds eye contact, speaks with a steady voice, and has an open posture. These physical cues, if you like, create an impression of confidence, even if they're feeling nervous inside. One of my favorite techniques to reset my body language is called the power pose. Probably a few people have heard this, but it's not necessarily what you might think in your head. Before you go into any conversation, stand tall, feet shoulder width apart, and hands on your hips. And take a moment to take a few deep breaths. This position sends a signal to your brain that you're ready, and even more importantly, you're in control. So right now, take a deep breath with me. Sit up straight, plant your feet on the ground and roll your shoulders back. Feel how this small shift already changes your focus and your energy. This is your confidence reset pose. Now, quite often we're working from home, right? We're working in this forum or working at a desk. So using this technique, you can reset your confidence, if you like, your physical confidence, if you're sitting down or if you're standing up. Just remember, taking that deep breath, sitting up straight, planting your feet on the floor, that bit's really, really important. And rolling your shoulders back and giving yourself that moment to reset. Okay. Now, a confident communicator is also an empathetic listener. If you're self-aware, you're also aware of your impact around others. Confidence isn't just about being heard. As I mentioned before, it's certainly not about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being open to other people's perspectives and finding common ground. During life or career transitions, we can so often feel isolated. I know I have during transitions. It's very easy to feel alone. But actively listening can create a connection and actually help you discover unexpected allies and insights. Anthony, you and I were talking before we kicked off about connections that you've built through networking, through podcasting, through unexpected allies. So
Yeah.
let's say you're, I don't know, you're in a new role or you're dealing with a career shift and you want to make a strong impression. Practice active listening because this shows others that you value their input, which in turn makes them more receptive to what you have to say. Simple techniques like nodding, making affirming noises, I see or I understand, and asking follow-up questions can all enhance your credibility as a communicator. We've all been in a situation where we've been talking to someone and they respond really quickly and you don't feel answered. Are you listening to what their response is? You're not. Because you know that they're not listening to you and you're kind of probably internally going, why won't they listen to me? Because they're not active listening. So you're not even thinking whether they've got confidence or not. You're just thinking it's noise. So as an exercise, have a think now of a recent conversation where you felt truly heard. What did the other person do to make you feel that way? How can you then take these tropes, these cues, and incorporating these techniques into your interactions? I'll give you a couple of seconds to have a think and maybe note them down before we move to the next slide. Okay. Transitions, whether career, life, personal, whatever it might be, often bring about self-doubt. There's no way of getting around that. It's absolutely normal. It's human and it's okay. These nagging thoughts that question our abilities or our worthiness, they're so common. To communicate confidently, you need tools to counter these negative thoughts. One effective method that I recommend is called reframing. This is where you challenge a limiting belief and replace it with a constructive one. So instead of thinking, I don't have enough experience with this role, it's quite a common one. Reframe it as, I bring fresh perspective and unique strengths to this role. This shift isn't just mental. It actually impacts the way you communicate and the energy you bring to the room. So the next time a negative thought arises, practice this two-step approach. First, identify the thought, and second, counter it with the positive reframe. This will take practice. I promise you'll take practice, but it'll build up your resilience and it'll prove your self-talk over time. Think about it in your own mind. Saying it out loud, I don't have enough experience in this role, versus I bring a fresh perspective and unique strengths to this role. It's completely different, but really simple. But it will take practice. Okay. So as we now wrap up, remember that confidence is about progress, not perfection. I alluded to it literally 2 seconds ago. Practice, practice, practice. It's about knowing your values, aligning your message with who you truly are, and using empathy to build connections. Now, I really hope that these tools, these practices that I've given you, empower you to step forward with real clarity and purpose, whether you're navigating career change, a life transition, or simply just seeking to make a different direction in your journey. So, firstly, thank you huge again to Anthony for having me today. But a real thing I want you to remember, you have a voice that deserves to be heard. And every step you take to communicate with confidence will bring you closer to your goals. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Jack.
My pleasure.
Much appreciated. Yeah, lots of gold in there, and I've learned a few things myself. And that's what it's all about, right? It's about being a continuous learner. It's about pushing your boundaries, pushing yourself through your comfort zones and your boundaries, and being able to reframe things, be able to communicate better with your body. Communication isn't just speaking. Communication is your tone, your body, the way you keep eye contact, and how prepared you are, and also the belief in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, then you're not going to be able to communicate. So
100%.
yeah, absolutely. All of these things are really important aspects of communication. The next,
Absolutely. Sorry, Anthony. I'll probably add one final one, which actually just popped into my head, and
mhm,
some people might have seen it, which is it's just an extension of this. It's more going back to that active listening piece,
mm,
and it's one that Simon Sinek talks about. I'm sure everyone's probably familiar with who he is. And when you're engaging with someone, have your phone in your pocket.
mm,
He talks about this quite often. Is if that phone's out or if it's in your hand, how engaged are you really?
mm,
And if you're on the other side, how engaged do you feel? If someone's like tapping their foot or tapping their shoulder and they've got the phone in the hand or the phone on the table up and you see it just lighting up all the time, it distracts you. We are so almost programmed now to be attached to our phone and devices and social media that's such an important part of communication is to let go of that and prioritize who you're talking to.
yeah, absolutely. It's something that my daughter keeps telling me to do, is to put my
So I
phone
keep
away.
telling my wife as well.
But yeah, Simon Sinek also talks about be the last person in the room to speak. He talks about how listening to other people and getting their point of views gives you information, right? Information is so important. Information is going to help you um, be better at listening and communicating. So then you can then create your speech or whatever you want to say with more information that other people have shared. It also allows people to feel like they've been listened to as well. I mean,
100%.
how many meetings have you been in where it could be a team leader or a manager who just talks, and you get nothing. But a good leader would actually ask his people to talk and listen. And
Yeah, I mean, it's something I work with sort of up and coming and leaders on quite a bit. Is that's the difference, or one of the many differences between a leader and a boss.
mm,
A boss comes in, needs to be seen, needs to feel that they've got all the answers and they have all the solutions. So they come in and they dictate what's going to happen. A leader comes in with vulnerability and with emotional intelligence and asks the group how everyone is, what challenges are going on, and is open to ideas, innovation, and feedback. And they gather as much information from their team as possible to enable them to make decisions moving forward.
mm, absolutely, yeah. Now we're going to go into the questions, reflects. Did you want to cover this?
It was purely if anyone had any questions. So I don't think that's necessary today because we're
Yeah,
pre-recording.
yeah. Well, if you do have questions, this video is going to be in YouTube on YouTube. So please feel free to uh, tag us in, and
Absolutely.
and I'll put uh, Jack's details in the description of the video as well. So feel free to connect with us on social media and um, tag us in, and we can have an interaction with you.
Absolutely. Be my pleasure.
Yeah, and as Jack said, reflect on these insights, consider how the presenter's strategies are how it can be applied to your personal and professional life. Each of our journeys is different, and identify specific actions that you can take further to develop your communication skills and confidence. And on that note, um, one of the things that I've recognized or known in all of the restructures I've been through and the redundancies is that organizations make these changes, but they very rarely will take people on that journey of like, hey, how do we teach you to communicate? How do we teach you to give feedback? Often they say give feedback, and everyone knows that 9 times out of 10, the feedback that they've given is not going to be taken seriously unless you craft your feedback in a way that is constructive and it actually helps. Like, I mean, to give you an example, in the last redundancy that I just came out of, the first initial consultation, we were told that our business partner roles were finite and they were going to get made redundant because they were moving to an agile way of working. And relationship management wasn't actually part of that new way of working, which is fine. But they didn't tell us how long the role was going to be around for. They didn't they didn't give us the ability to when we did ask questions, they didn't respond to those questions. And that really frustrates people. It will get people angry and a whole lot of different emotions that go with it. Now, if they'd taken the time to actually just sit with us as a team and go, hey, here's the journey we're going on, and this is why we're doing it, then it would have been a lot easier. So, what I want to do is take you through an activity. So, of course, we don't have anyone here, but um, we would, I mean, happy to do a role play, but what I'd encourage you to do is to find a friend or someone that's your workmate or someone that you trust and do a role play with them scenario where you are communicating a difficult change. So one of yous will be the manager or the leader, and the other person will be the employee. Then switch that role. Now, here's the guidelines for that. So prepare your thoughts. So clarify your concerns and write down your thoughts before the conversation. Be very clear about what you're going to say and maybe have that script in front of you. Focus on specific points of that change that you want to address. Often we can go into babble where we're like, oh, no, and it's all emotional stuff, right? But when you come from a place of and the next step is constructive feedback, right? When you come with specific points that you've picked up on that change that they may have overlooked, then it's important to make sure that you're focusing on that. So frame your feedback around how that change affects you or your team and the productivity, because leaders don't always know the hidden logistics of how things work. They just know that a whole lot of people do a whole lot of work, but they don't really necessarily know how they do it, right? Use constructive feedback. Be specific, avoid vague statements, and clearly articulate your observations and concerns. Stay solution orientated. How many times have you said, "Don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution"? So that's exactly what leaders want as the solution. So come to them with ideas or solutions that may improve that situation. Stay calm, and this is really important. And you know, I've failed many times at this. Staying calm and respectful. Use a professional empathetic tone, as Jack mentioned before. And even if your emotions are running high, take time out, go for a walk, go to take some fresh air in, do some deep breathing. They say that it takes about 90 seconds for whatever's going on in your body and your mind to go away. Effective communication tips: use I statements. So if you're not using I statements and you're going you, that's blame. That's below the line, right? You want to be above the line where you're taking responsibility. So when you use I statements, you're saying, I'm taking responsibilities and I'm communicating this, that I feel concerned about this decision, and avoid sounding like you're accusing them, right? Active listening. So as Jack said before, active listening to your manager or your leader's response, and ask them to follow up with the questions with clarification. Also maintain a collaborative mindset. So it's all about collaboration. Now, we've been taught that we be competitive, and even as Jack and I know, in this coaching world, there's a lot of coaches who are competitive, and they're like, oh, that person's doing this, I'm going to go better than them. But the approach that I've taken with my podcast and with coaching, which is why I have Jack here, is there's things that I don't know that Jack knows. He's got experiences that I haven't lived. I've got experiences that Jack hasn't lived. And together we can bring a lot more to the table. We can bring a lot more to help you and educate you. So for me, collaboration is key. If you really want to be successful in life, you've got to collaborate. Also, show the willingness to work towards the positive outcome. So yes, it might seem like it's negative at the time, and you're feeling all these emotions, which is fine. If you're feeling that, I encourage you to go and watch video number 1, video number 1 and 2, because they have aspects of what it's going to help you to, especially number 1, where we did the EFT tapping, right? And that really helps with calming yourself down and making sure that you're showing up as your authentic self and your best version as well. Now, lastly, here's a bit of homework for you.
Sorry,
What I'd
Anthony,
like,
sorry, Sean, can I add
yeah,
one extra sort of addition on the feedback?
yeah,
And it's something I encourage anybody to, whenever they give feedback to anyone for anything, but this, especially when it's got to be potentially something emotive, it's an exercise that I encourage everybody to always do, is before you do it, question your intent. What result do you want to get out of it? And it comes almost back to your I, you, blame scenario, right? Because quite often when we're giving feedback, people want to be seen and heard. What's your intent behind it? What result do you really want to see? Is it the right intent? Are you wanting the business to grow and improve and it to be a better place? Is it a positive intent? Great. Brilliant. Is it a negative intent? We're all human, and we will sometimes have thoughts that we shouldn't go and really, I wish that person would just be out of the business. That's what I really, really want. That's a human feeling to have. If it's a negative intent, reassess your approach and reassess why you should be in that situation giving feedback at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Jack. It's gold. Yeah. So the next step is a bit of homework if you're watching this video, and is to create a script for yourself. So the scenario is, and this is going to help you with restructuring announcement. So your manager's just announced that your department is going to be merging with another, or roles may shift, or there may be roles that are going to be reduced. You feel uncertain about your responsibilities, and you want to ensure that leadership understands your concerns. So first of all, write a script thanking, and it can be something like this. You can use this kind of script. Thank you for taking the time to share the restructuring plan with us. I understand that these changes are necessary for organization's growth, and I appreciate that the efforts have been put into this decision. Next, give feedback. I do have some concerns about how these changes might impact our team's ability to meet deadlines effectively. What you're doing is you're saying you're actually agreeing with the change, but you're saying that you have some concerns and you're actually speaking out, right? I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it's no point, but it's important. For example, when merging the departments, I'm worried about overlapping responsibilities and how tasks will be divided. It would be helpful to have more clarity on how these roles will be defined moving forward. Clarity gives us the way forward. And so if you can give this feedback in this way, then it's going to help you and your team. And it's also going to help the leader really assess what they're trying to do as well. And then request for support. I believe having more communication sessions or even a team workshop to outline responsibilities could help ease this transition. And it also would also be helpful to know what resources will be available to support us as we adjust. Now, we did this in my team because we were being reduced from 7 business partners down to 3. And we were like, well, how is engagement going to work? And we're just trying to understand how will this engagement work across the organization? How is the communication going to be? We asked these questions because we were concerned. And then we invited our manager to come and sit with us and to take us through what they knew. Unfortunately, the answer was we don't know, and which and to me that was like, how can you be doing a change when you don't know how these things can happen? So, but lastly, you want to leave that manager and a leader in a good, feeling good about what they've just read. I value the opportunity to share this feedback, and I'm open to discussing ways we can work together and make this transition smoother for everyone involved. Please let me know how I can contribute for this process. So, first of all, you're asking to you're thanking for the opportunity to give this feedback. You're also looking at ways on how you can collaborate with your manager. And you're also then saying, please let me know how. If you say, if I can, it will be like, no, you can't. But if you say how I can contribute, then it shows that you're willing to work with them. Jack, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I think it's really good. I love. I think I mentioned at the beginning or before we started recording. I love the fact that you've got these examples and practical strategies that people can take away and use and um, and really implement for their growth. And I
Yeah,
think again, it's the feedback is so important. But again, with these examples, when it comes to restructuring, quite often there's so much emotion involved, and there's a lot of confusion. So have confidence to ask questions at the same time, because it leads with confusion. You're shocked. It comes out of nowhere. You're questioning your own value, your own position. So whilst feedback is vital, it's one step prior is probably to make sure you're clear. Because, and this might sound strange, she said this to someone yesterday. I've got a lot of empathy and respect for people who have to deliver the news of a restructure to those who do it well. Not everybody does it well. So if you've got someone who fails to deliver the news well, it might be clunky, it might be lacking detail. Don't take that as gospel. If you don't have clarity before looking to give feedback or looking for the next step, ask. You have as much right as anybody else to ask as many questions so that you are 100% clear of what's gone on and why and where that leaves you before then going for feedback. Because asking those questions, giving you clarity, will actually enable you to start processing it and being able to control those emotions.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you're right, Jack. You know, it's equally as hard for the person delivering the news. And
Those that do it well, those that do it well.
yeah, yeah. Um, Personally, in my experience, and the very few people have done it well.
I've had
Um,
mixed. I've had mixed.
yeah.
I've had some clangers with some people who have said things that your jaw just drops and goes, "What did you just say?" And others that have led with, "This is the situation. This is the decision." Again, so you separate the person from the business. This is the decision the business has made for these reasons, these reasons, these reasons, and this is what the pathway is going to look like. But they've led with empathy. They've given the individual time and space to breathe, to process it. They understand that it's emotive, and it takes both parties at the same time. If you're
Mm,
an individual that behaves unprofessionally, using the term, throws your toys out the pram, shouts, screams, da, 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 it's not, it's understandable in one way because it's emotive, but it's not the way to go about it. You want to leave with your head held high. Don't burn bridges in life. The world's too small.
hmm.
So in this situation, if you're getting that respect, that empathy, give it in return.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And especially if you're in New Zealand, it's only 2 degrees of separation here. Um,
Exactly. There you go.
yeah, and the industries are very small, so compared to overseas. So, let go. Exactly, let go. Forgive, forgive them, forgive yourself for whatever's gone on, and just move on. You
It's
know.
also quite often not the people. It's sometimes is, but not necessarily the people who, excuse me, people who are delivering the news. It wasn't their decision. Sometimes it is, but not always. So it's the old-fashioned "don't shoot the messenger."
No, no.
They might have been
Yeah,
involved in the
and I remember
decision.
in my last.
They might not necessarily have the final call.
Yeah, I remember in my last role. It was, there was a lot of factors above, like the government, the mayor, because I
Yeah,
was in local government. So the government was really letting people go. Then there's the mayor, saying we need to reduce cost.
yeah,
Then the CEO, and so it's all coming down the chain, and the
yeah.
and the, the poor leader at the bottom, or the manager,
Let's have that conversation.
who you directly have that relationship with, is it's a hard thing for them to do.
Yeah,
So give them empathy. Um, and I remember one of my restructures, uh, the because they have to read a script apparently, and so
they
I
do.
was like, why can't you talk to me like a human being and just put the script down? And
They have because
and
they have to put so many boxes to make sure the business is covered. They can
yeah,
end up talking to you like a human, which is nice, but they've got to cover their backs first, which is
exactly.
frustrating to start with. I get that.
But I remember talking to that manager and saying, how do you feel about this? How are you? Are you okay?
Yeah, I love that.
And and before I left, I went, "Are you okay? Is everything, how are you feeling about this?" And
That's a you.
yeah, it was a hard thing for him to do, unfortunately. And but yeah, so give empathy, give compassion, and leave on a good note, so that when you go to another role or you're getting references, you're not going to shoot yourself in the foot,
It's
right?
also your own self-professional pride,
Yeah.
and I've seen people manage the situation on the full spectrum, from
Mm,
throwing the toys that pram, going, right, I'm gone today, and literally going. And whilst again, I understand it, I've got empathy with anyone that goes through that. By doing that, not only do you leave resentful, angry, the doors, the book's not fully closed, sorry. It's not resolved. It's kind of unfinished business because it's just been left up in the air. You also leave your colleagues and your mates often in the lurch going, well, what are we going to do now? We're like, this person's just left us with all the stuff. It's not a great way to leave. It's also yourself, standards for yourself that you hold yourself to. Going,
yeah.
well, I've got a really, I've got a high standard, a high bar that I like to have in my profession, but then I'm just going to tear it up and go. No, I'm going to finish what I started on my terms. It's a big part of restructures in this element is you don't feel in control
Mm,
because you're not. The decision's been made out of your hands. So being able to take a breath and go, okay, and sometimes a business will give you a maximum minimum amount of time you can basically see out, and you can either see it out away from the business or not. And it's very much how you approach the situation will determine how much they give you. So if you approach in the right way, you've given yourself time to go, I'm going to finish what I started. I've got a week or 2 days or 2 weeks or whatever it might be. And I'm going to close all the books. I'm going to close the projects that are going to go on. I'm going to email all my clients and say, thank you. It's been brilliant. You leave on your terms more. So you feel you get that little bit of control back. You leave with bridges unburned. You leave with respect, integrity, and your head held high. But also you leave with the people who are left behind, because often it's just as tough for them, your colleagues and
Mm,
friends, because they're left empty. But you leave them with in a positive way rather than a negative. And again, the world's too small to burn it.
mm, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you've also got to consider the people that have been left behind as well.
Mm,
Um, they're equally going through grief as well.
absolutely.
Um, yeah.
Grief, uncertainty. God,
Mm,
who's going to do that work now? That person's not there. Is that going to land on my lap? What is it going to look like? Do I trust leadership now? Is the business the same as what I thought it is? All these questions go into people's heads, and it's a big
mm,
challenge for leadership. It's a big challenge for the execs or the leaders or the business or the owner of the business, what it might be, because these decisions have ramifications of the culture of the business in the long term. It's not solved by, okay, we're going to bring everyone together for a culture day or a conference day and get everyone together for dinner and drinks and go, this is the new plan and we're all together. Band-aid. It's a band-aid. When you
mm,
do a big restructure or any restructure when multitude of individuals leave, it creates a rip in the business, and that it becomes a scar, and it takes time for that to heal and for trust to be rebuilt. And that's through culture, that's through communication of leadership, that's through transparency of leadership as well. Because people aren't stupid. They will see the same behaviors from the time before and go, it's going to happen again. You'll get paranoia sipping into the business.
mm,
So it's about constant, consistent messaging, communication, and bringing people. I talk quite often, bring people in, don't push them away. um, because
mm,
it's that scar tissue is so fine that it only takes one hiccup for it to be torn again and you lose the trust of people. For that to be
mm,
completely healed, it takes time. It takes constant effort on leadership.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing all that.
My pleasure.
That's
Sorry, we went slightly off communication, I guess, specifically, but it was all valued.
no, but I think that's important, Jack, to for people to really understand because when you're going through these transitions, you generally only think about yourself, right? Yeah,
Human nature.
and
Human nature.
which is which,
We do.
which is normal, right? It is natural for us to think about our um, like security. What does it mean for us? How we're going to feel about this? What we're going to do going forward?
Yeah.
And there'll be also um, concerns about, like you might have mortgages, you might have bills to pay. How am I going to do this? How am I going to pay and some businesses don't have long or packages that redundancy packages that
No,
pay them for 6 months. Some
no.
people like you get like a month's pay and that's it, if that. Um, and so
Sometimes less than that, sometimes 2 weeks,
some
depending on what you've been there.
sometimes it's 2 weeks exactly.
Yeah.
And so the idea, the reason why I've created this 5-day challenge and the business that I'm building is to help people really transition through that time or when they're going from the time when they're going through that change and when they're going through redundancy.
Mm.
And then how do you get supported going forward? Because for me, every time I've been made redundant, I've had no support, right?
Support network's
And
huge. It's absolutely
yeah,
imperative, whether it's through professional support, and that could be through coaches such as you and I. It could be if you're, really, really struggling, it could be professionals like a psychologist or a therapist. It's also your close family and friends.
mm,
You people who try and if they're some people don't care. Some people have been with the business in 5 minutes, they get made redundant and they're out and they're like, oh, that's fine. Cool, great, awesome. You get the other end of the spectrum where people are greatly affected, and it's so important for them not to feel they have to do it alone. So quite
Mm,
often people feel they have to do alone, not necessarily they are alone, and they don't want to, lean on their family or their wife or their partner or their friends and bring them down. People are a reflection of us. The closest people are the best reflection of us. So
mm,
I know through my challenges, there are times where I've had to battle to a certain degree physically on my own, but I've never been on my own. I had support either internally from people that are very close to me and I care about, or that have been there for me through transitions of themselves. And
mm,
it's not always the people that we expect. It's probably a sort of a warning, I guess, a warning that I'd shout out. Um, Often sometimes the people that we expect that would step forward don't, and the people that we don't expect would step forward do. So be open to that.
mm, absolutely. And so, thank you, Jack. And in the coming 2 days, we're going to cover tomorrow the importance of networking, and and again, it's another form of communication, is building those relationships, networks, and then communicating with them. And so, we'll transition from communication to networking, and then on Friday, the last day, we're going to have Amanda Godridge, who is a financial advisor, um, who's going to come and talk to us about what you can do with finances, and for superannuation and things like that. Like, what do you do going forward? Tomorrow, I don't have any guests, but I've asked a couple of our guests who can make it to send us some videos of which will be joined by via video, pre-recorded, Lanier Johnston, and also I've asked a recruiter, um, someone who owns a recruitment company, to also do a video as well. So see how that goes. We'll get that. Otherwise, we'll do a separate session purely on the steps forward and networking and so on. So keep an eye out for the next session on networking and the plan ahead, move you forward. Thank you for watching this day 3 of the Shift Happens, and I wish you an amazing day today. Thank you.